Welcome to my channel. I hope you like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this little cardigan sweater, coat, or jacket for little girls and boys between 3 and 6 months old. I made it to match the little Ivy baby blanket that I showed you already in my channel. In the information box, you can find the link to that tutorial. And stay tuned. In another tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the matching baby pants. Comment below and let me know if you want me to make a matching little hat and baby booties. I'll gladly go ahead and do that, but make sure to comment. And as always, if you prefer a written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. I will also leave the direct link for the little Ivy baby blanket, since that is already available in my Etsy shop, so make sure to check that out. Now, to make this little Ivy baby cardigan sweater, this is the yarn that I used. This is DK weight yarn, but you can also use any number 3 yarn or 8 ply. In the main color, which is this pink color, you're going to need a total of 91 grams. In the secondary color, which is the white, you're going to need about 27 grams. Depending on the size that you make, you may need less or more. You will also need 4 buttons. These are 13mm size. Okay, let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notifications bell. Thank you so much for watching. To begin, I'll be using this 3.5mm crochet hook. This is an E-hook or a size 5 US hook. And today I'm using this DK weight yarn. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the yarn that I'm using and I told you how much yarn we're going to need for the size that we're making here in this tutorial. So to begin here, the first thing that we need to do is we need to make our chain. I need to make a total of 46 chains. Many of you comment and ask, how do you make a chain? This is totally for a new beginner. So to do a chain, all you do is just wrap the yarn around and pull through. Well, the first thing you do is a slip knot. So let's begin from the very beginning. You make a slip knot, insert your hook, and now you're going to wrap the yarn around and pull through that loop, wrap the yarn around and pull through that, and so on. Remember that you can always slow the video. Just go here to the top and there's a little gear there where you can change the speed of the tutorial. So if you need this to be a little slower, you can always slow the tutorial down. And that's how I'm going to continue here and make my chains until I have a total of 46 chains. So continue, chain 46, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished making my chains. I have 46 chains. Now this chain, without stretching, it's measuring about 9.25 inches, which is about 23.5 centimeters. Now if your chain is off by 1 or 2 centimeters less or more, it's okay. Just continue with the first row. So here, to begin, into the 4th chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4. Into this 4th chain, I'm going to make my first stitch. The stitch that I'm going to use to make the yoke is the double crochet herringbone stitch. There are many variations of the herringbone stitch. So here, to begin, the first thing that you need to do with this double crochet herringbone stitch, I'm just going to call it a herringbone stitch from now on, is yarn over, and into this 4th chain, you're going to grab a loop. Now you're going to take off 1 loop, grab a loop and take off 1, grab a loop and take off 2. Again, yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain and grab a loop. Remove 1 loop, grab a loop and remove 1, grab a loop and remove 2. And this is how we're going to work this stitch from here on. I think it's also known as the extended double crochet, but I call it the double crochet herringbone stitch because it does look like a herringbone pattern. So now here I'm going to make a total of 6, including the 3 chains. So here I have 5. I just need to make 1 more. So I have 5 herringbone stitches and I have the 3 chains. So that's 6 stitches here. Now to make the first corner, chain 1. Into the next chain, make another herringbone stitch. Now this here is the first corner. You can place a stitch marker. I'm going to do this after I finish this row. Now into the next chain, make another one. Here we're making the stitches for the shoulder, or what's going to be the sleeve. And for the sleeve, I'm going to make a total of 10. So go ahead and finish making these 10. herringbone stitches, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to make the second corner. I finished making these 10 herringbone stitches for the first sleeve. Now to make the second corner, chain 1. Into the next chain, make a herringbone stitch. Place a stitch marker to mark the second corner here. I already placed a stitch marker also for the first corner. Now for the back side, we're going to make a total of 12. So I already have one. Into the next chain, make the second one, and continue until you have 12. I'll come back and show you how we're going to make the third corner. I finished making these 12 stitches for the back side. Now to make the third corner, chain 1, and into the next chain, make a herringbone stitch. Now place a stitch marker to mark the third corner. And now for the second sleeve, we're going to make a total of 10. I have one. Into the next chain, make the second one, and continue until you have 10. I'll come back and show you how we're going to make the fourth corner. I finished making these 10 stitches for the second sleeve. Now to make the fourth corner, chain 1, and into the next chain here, make a stitch. Now place a stitch marker to mark the fourth corner, and here we're going to finish with 6 of these stitches. I have one already, so into the next chain, make the second one, and into the next another one until we finish the row. There, I finished the last 6. At the end of this first row, you should have a total of 44 stitches. Each one of the front panels has 6. Each one of the sleeves has 10, and for the back side, I have 12. So that's a total of 44 stitches at the end of this first row. Now for row 2, we're going to chain 2 and turn. These 2 chains will never count as a stitch. Beginning on top of the first stitch, we're going to make the first herringbone stitch. Into the next, make the second one. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now remove the stitch marker. Now for each corner, you're going to make 2 separated by 1 chain. So here's the first one, chain 1, and then make another one into this same chain space. And this is how we're going to work each corner. In the chain space of each corner, you're going to do these 2 herringbone stitches separated by a chain. Make sure to return the stitch marker to mark the corner, and now you're just going to continue and work the rest of the stitches. So for this section here, this is for the sleeve, you're going to make 10, and when you come to the corner, you're going to do the same thing I did here. Then you're going to continue with the back side. For the back side, you're going to do 12 and then make the third corner. For the second sleeve, you're going to make 10 and then make the fourth corner and finish here with these last 6 stitches. I will meet you at the end of this second row. I'm here at the end of the second row. Now here at the end, to make your last stitch, we have the 3 chains. Go into the third chain here at the end and make the last stitch. And this is how I finished the second row. At the end of this second row, I have a total of 52 stitches. Each one of the front panels has 7 stitches. Each one of the sleeves has 12, and for the back side, I have 14. So that's a total of 52 stitches at the end of this second row. Now for row 3, we're going to chain 2 and turn. Remember, the 2 chains never count. Now here to begin, I'm going to work these 7 stitches for the first front panel. So beginning on top of the first stitch, I'm going to make my first herringbone stitch. That's 1, 7. Remove the stitch marker, And in the chain space of this first corner, you're going to make a stitch here, chain one, and then another one in the same chain space. There. Return your stitch marker. You're going to work each one of the corners in the same way. So here, to continue for the third row, you're going to make these 12 stitches, then make the second corner. For the back side, you're going to make 14, then make the third corner. For the second sleeve, you're going to make 12 and then make the fourth corner, and then finish here with these last 7 stitches. I'll meet you at the end of this third row. I'm here at the end of the third row. Now at the end of the third row, I have a total of 60 stitches. Each one of the front panels has 8 stitches. Each one of the sleeves has 14, and for the back side I have 16. So that's a total of 60 stitches at the end of the third row. Now for row 4, we're going to chain 2 and turn. Now beginning on top of the first stitch, I'm going to make the first herringbone stitch, and I'm going to continue until I come to the first corner. So that's 1, 8. Remove the stitch marker, and in the chain space, make a herringbone stitch, chain 1, and then another one. Return the stitch marker to mark the corner. And now you're just going to continue and do the same thing, 1 stitch for each one of these stitches. Here for the sleeve, you're going to make a total of 14, then make the second corner. For the back side, you're going to make 16, then make the third corner. For the second sleeve, you're going to make 14 and then make the fourth corner, and then finish here with these last 8 stitches. I'll meet you at the end of this fourth row. I'm here at the end of the fourth row. At the end of this fourth row, I have a total of 68 stitches. Each one of the front panels has 9 stitches. Each one of the sleeves has 16 stitches. And for the back side, I have 18. So that's a total of 68 stitches at the end of the fourth row. Now for row 5, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Here I'm going to work these stitches for the first front panel. So beginning on top of the first stitch, I'm going to make the first stitch here. That's 1, 9. Remove the stitch marker, and in this corner you're going to make a herringbone stitch, chain 1, and then another one. And that's how you're going to work each corner. So here you're just going to continue and make 16 for the first sleeve, then make the second corner, 18 for the back side, then make the third corner, 16 for the second sleeve, and make the fourth corner, and finish here with these last 9 stitches. I'll meet you at the end of the 5th row. I'm here at the end of the 5th row. I have a total of 76 stitches. Now each one of the front panels has 10 stitches. Each one of the sleeves has 18, and for the back side I have 20 stitches. So that's a total of 76 stitches at the end of this 5th row. Now for row 6, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Now here, beginning on top of the first stitch, I'm going to make the first stitch, and I'm going to continue and make 1 stitch until I come to the first corner. So that's 2, 10. Remove the stitch marker for the first corner here, and inside this corner I'm going to make 1, chain 1, and then make another one. Return the stitch marker. Now you're going to continue and do the same thing for the next section. Here for the sleeve, you're going to do a total of 18, then you're going to make the second corner. For the back side, you're going to make 20, then make the third corner. For the second sleeve, you're going to make 18, then make the fourth corner, and finish here with these last 10 stitches. I will meet you at the end of this 6th row. I finished row 6. At the end of this 6th row, I have a total of 84 stitches. Each one of the front panels has 11 stitches. Each one of the sleeves has 20 stitches, and for the back side, I have 22 stitches. Now we're going to make one more row. So for row 7, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Here I'm going to work 1 stitch on each one of these stitches until I come to the first corner. So beginning on top of the first stitch, make the first herringbone stitch. That's 1. $11. Here's the first corner. Remove the stitch marker, and in this corner you're going to make the first herringbone stitch, then chain 1, and then make another one, all in this same chain space of the first corner. Now return the stitch marker and continue and do the same thing for the first sleeve. Here you're going to work a total of 20, then make the second corner. For the back side, you're going to make 22, then make the third corner. For the second sleeve, you're going to make 20, then make the fourth corner, and finish here with these last 11 stitches. So continue, finish row 7, and I'll meet you at the end. I finished the 7th row. At the end of this row, I have a total of 92 stitches. Here at the end, after I did the last stitch, I cut my yarn and passed my yarn through this last loop. Now, each one of the front panels has 12 stitches. Each of the sleeves has 22, and for the back side I have 24. So that's a total of 92 stitches at the end of row 7. Now I cut my yarn here because I'm going to continue with a different yarn color. So for row 8, I'm going to turn this like this, and I'm going to insert my hook on top of the last stitch that I did. So this is the first stitch on this side. So here, pull a loop through and chain 3. Now these 3 chains counts as 1 double crochet. Now I'm going to skip 1 herringbone stitch and into the next, which is the third, counting from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Here I'm going to start my pattern. This is the same pattern that I used for the baby blanket. So here into this stitch, I'm going to make a 3 double crochet cluster stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, leave 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook again, and grab a loop, take 2 loops off, leave 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook again, grab a loop, take 2 loops off. I have 4 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, and then a single crochet into this same stitch. Here's the first shell, or a 3 double crochet cluster stitch. I'm going to call them shells from here on. Again, skip 1 and into the next, repeat the same thing. Yarn over, insert your hook, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, leave 2 loops, yarn over, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, 4 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, then a single crochet into this same stitch. Again, skip 1 and into the next, make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch. 4 loops, chain 2, single crochet. Skip 1 and into the next, same thing, a 3 double crochet cluster stitch. Skip 1 and into the next, another 3 double crochet cluster stitch. There, I have 5 shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have the first corner. So skip this last stitch for the front panel, and in the chain space here, make a V-stitch. So make a double crochet, 1 chain, double crochet. Return the stitch marker. And now we're going to continue with the same pattern here for the sleeve. Skip 1 and into the next, make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch. So this is like making 3 double crochets that you do not close. 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Again, skip 1 and into the next, make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch. Two chains, single crochet. One more time, skip 1 and into the next, make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch. 4 loops, close, chain 2, then a single crochet. Continue like this until you come here to the second corner. I will meet you here to show you what we need to do next. I finished making these shells for the sleeve. I have 11. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Here at the end, on top of the last stitch for the sleeve, I did the 11th shell. Now in the corner here, I'm going to make a V-stitch. So make a double crochet, 1 chain, double crochet. And here's the second corner. Return the stitch marker. Now for the back side, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to skip 1 and into the next, I'm going to make my first cluster stitch here. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Skip 1 and into the next, make your next cluster stitch or shell stitch. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Continue like this. I will meet you right here. This is the third corner to show you what we need to do next. I finished making these shells for the back side. I have 12. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. The last cluster stitch, I did it here on top of the last stitch of the back side. Now here is the third corner. In this chain space here, make a V-stitch. Double crochet, 1 chain, double crochet. Return the stitch marker to mark the corner. And now for the sleeve here, we're going to repeat the same thing. Here I'm going to skip 1 and into the next, make your first shell or cluster stitch. 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Again, skip 1 and into the next, make your shell. 4 loops, close, 2 chain, single crochet. Continue like this, where you skip 1 and into the next, make your cluster stitch until you come here to the fourth corner. I will meet you right here. This is the fourth corner to show you what we need to do next. I finished making these shells for the second sleeve. I have 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. The last one I did here on top of the last double crochet for the sleeve. Now in the chain space of the fourth corner, make a V-stitch. Return the stitch marker to mark the corner. And here for the second front panel, skip 1 and into the next, make your cluster stitch. Skip 1 and into the next, another cluster stitch. Continue like this for this section here for the second front panel. I will meet you here at the end to show you what we need to do next. I'm here at the end of row 8. Here's my last shell. Here at the end, skip 1 and on top of the last stitch, make a double crochet. And this is how I finished this 8th row. Now at the end of this 8th row, I have a total of 44 shells. Each of the front panels has 5 shells. Each of the sleeves has 11, and for the back side I have 12. So that's a total of 44 shells at the end of row 8. Now I have placed a stitch marker to mark the front side of the little sweater. So from here on, this is going to be the front. Row 8 was worked on the right side. This is going to now be the wrong side. So make sure to place a stitch marker to mark the front. Now, this part here is measuring right across. It's measuring about 9.5 centimeters, which is about 3.75 inches. What we're going to do next is separate the sleeves. This is going to be row 1 of the body. So to start this row, row 1 will be worked on the wrong side. So chain 3 and turn. Now, in the chain 2 space of each shell, we're going to work the 3 double crochet cluster stitch. So insert your hook in the chain 2 space of the first shell. First, yarn over, insert your hook there, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, yarn over, grab a loop, take 2 loops off, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over again, grab a loop, take 2 loops off. I have 4 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, single crochet into the same space. Again, we have the next shell in the chain 2 space. Make your cluster stitch. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. And I'm going to do this until I come to the first corner. Here's the last shell. I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make one more shell, and I'm going to make it here on top of the double crochet of the V-stitch. Here's the corner V-stitch, so on top of the first double crochet of this V-stitch, make your cluster stitch. There, I have 6. Now in the chain space of the V-stitch, make another cluster stitch. There, so for the first front panel, I have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now to separate the first sleeve, I'm going to chain 4. Skip 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 cluster stitches, and inside the chain space of the second corner, make a cluster stitch. Now to continue with the back side, same thing. You're going to make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch like this, and so on. So continue for this part here for the back side. I will meet you right here. This is the third corner to show you how we're going to separate the second sleeve. I finished making the shells for the back side. I have 14. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The last one, I did it inside the chain space of the third corner. And now to separate the second sleeve, I'm going to chain 4. Again, here you can chain more. Depending on the measurement that you need for the chest measurement, you can add more. The important thing is that when you make the next row, you make shells here in this space. Now to separate the second sleeve, skip 11 shells, and in the chain space of the fourth corner, make a shell or a cluster stitch. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. And now here I'm going to make one more before I work the shells for the front panel. I'm going to make this extra one here on top of the double crochet that's part of the V-stitch here. So on top of this double crochet, make your cluster stitch. Single crochet. And now in the chain space of each cluster stitch, you make a shell or another cluster stitch. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet, and so on. Continue until you finish this first row. I will meet you here at the end. I'm here at the end of this first row. In this row we have separated the sleeves. Now to finish here at the end, I have the 3 chains here at the end. Into the second chain, insert your hook and make a double crochet. And this is how I finish row 1 of the body. In this row we separated the sleeves. Now at the end of this row I have 28 shells. Each of the front panels has 7 shells, and for the back side I have 14, and under each sleeve I have 4 chains. Now for row 2 of the body, row 2 is going to be worked on the right side. Row 1 again was worked on the wrong side. So for row 2 here of the body, chain 3 and turn. Now in the chain space of each one of these shells, you're going to make your 3 double crochet cluster stitch like this. Again, in the chain 2 space of the next, repeat the 3 double crochet cluster stitch. I'm going to do this until I come to the 4 chains under the sleeve. I have 7 shells, 2, 4, 6, 7. Now I have the 4 chains under the sleeve. I'm going to show you here, but you're going to do the same thing under the second sleeve. Here in the first chain, make a cluster stitch. Four loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Now skip the second and the third chain, and in the 4th chain here, make a cluster stitch. There. So here I have added 2 extra cluster stitches. Depending on the number of chains that you added here under the sleeve, you can add more or less. That would be up to you. There is no stitch multiple. The important thing is that you fill that gap with shells. Now for the back side, we're going to do the same thing. In the chain space of each shell, you make your cluster stitch. Like this. So continue until you come to the chains under the second sleeve and do the same thing I showed you here. In the first chain, make your cluster stitch, skip the second and the third, and in the 4th chain, make the second cluster stitch for the gap here under the sleeve, and then continue here and finish the second front panel. I will meet you at the end of this second row. I'm here at the end of the second row. Row 2 is being worked on the right side. Here's my last shell of the row. Now to finish, we have the 3 chains here at the beginning. In the second chain, insert your hook and make a double crochet. And this is how you're going to finish each row from here on. At the end of this second row, I have 32 shells. We started with 28, but we added 2 shells under each sleeve. So that gives us a total of 32 shells at the end of row 2. From here on, we're going to continue with these 32 shells. So here I'm going to start row 3 for you. You just chain 3 and turn. Row 3 is going to be worked on the wrong side, and all you're going to do here is in the chain space of each one of these shells, you're going to make your cluster stitch. There. Like this. Again, we have the next shell in the chain 2 space. Make your cluster stitch. 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Same thing for the next. Four loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Now to finish the row, here at the end in the second chain, you're going to make a double crochet, chain 3, turn, and then repeat the same thing. At the end of each row, you're always going to have 32 shells. Continue like this. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do, but continue watching. I will let you know exactly how many rows I'm going to do, so I will meet you at the end of that row. I'm almost done with the body of the little sweater. I have done a total of 16 rows. Counting from this first row that we did, not this one, because this one is part of the yoke. So from here up to here, there's 16 rows. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Row 16 was worked on the right side. And at the end of the row, after I did my last double crochet here at the end, I cut my yarn and passed my yarn through that last loop. I'm going to change yarn color for the hem. If you're not changing yarn color, then just go ahead and turn and chain 2. So here, let me give you the measurement as well. From the top of the shoulder to the end of row 16, it's measuring about 25 centimeters, which is about 9.75 inches. So here, to continue for the hem, I'm going to change to the white yarn. So I'm going to turn this to the wrong side. I'm going to insert my hook on top of the last double crochet here, or this last stitch that I did, and bring a loop through. Now chain 2. Now in the chain space of each one of these cluster stitches, so right here, I'm going to make 3 half double crochets. That's 2, 3. 3 half double crochets in the chain space of the next cluster stitch, and so on. Continue like this all the way to the end of the row. I will meet you here at the end to show you how we're going to finish this first row of the hem. I'm here at the end of the first row of the hem. This row is being worked on the wrong side. Now up to here I have 97 half double crochets, including the 2 chains that we did at the beginning. Now here at the end, into the second chain, insert your hook and make a half double crochet. And this is how I finished this first row with 98 half double crochets, including the 2 chains. Now for row 2, chain 2 and turn. In this row, what I'm going to do is front post and back post half double crochets. So beginning into this first double crochet, we have these 3 here. So into this first one, I'm going to make a front post half double crochet. Into the next, make a back post half double crochet, front post half double crochet into the next, and so on. For this second row, this is how we're going to continue. Just alternate between front post and back post half double crochets. Now I always say that if you have a hard time making front post and back post stitches, then it's okay if you want to just make another row here of half double crochet. So you would just make 1 half double crochet on top of each one of the ones that we did in the previous row. That would be up to you. You can also do single crochets. That's another nice way to finish the hem here and the trim around the front panels. I'm going to work front post and back post half double crochets. Continue for the second row. I will meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of the second row for the hem here. Here's my last stitch. This is a back post half double crochet. To finish the row, go into the second chain here at the top and make a half double crochet. And this is how I finished the second row with a total of 98 half double crochets, including the 2 chains at the beginning. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to continue along the edge here of the right front panel. So to do this, I'm going to chain 1. Now here at the end, in this space where I added the last half double crochet, into this space at the end, make a half double crochet. At the end of the next row, this will be the first row of the hem, make 1 half double crochet as well. Now here at the end of these rows for the body, I have either a double crochet or 3 chains. Now knowing this, in the space where I have the double crochet, I'm going to make 2 half double crochets. In the space along the edge where I have the 3 chains, I'm going to make 1. So this is how you're going to continue. 2 at the end of the next row, then 1. 2 half double crochets at the end of the next, then 1 at the end of the next, and so on. This is how I'm going to continue until I come here. For this part here of the yoke, I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So go ahead and finish this part and I'll meet you right here. I finished making these half double crochets for this part here. I have a total of 28 up to here. This is the first row that we did in this color, peach. So I have 28 up to there. Now I have the first row here of the yoke. Here at the end, you either have 2 chains or the herringbone stitch. In the chain 2 space, you're going to make 1. At the end of the row where you have the herringbone stitch, you're going to make 2. So 1, then 2. 1 at the end of the next row, then 2 at the end of the next. Now here at the end in the next row, I'm going to make 1, and then in the chain row here at the very top, make 1. So here you should have 39. I had 28 up to here, so that's 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. Now, if you have 1 or 2 stitches less or more, it's okay. The important thing is that when you make the second front panel, you make the same number of half double crochets in this first row. Now, for row 2, chain 1 and turn. Beginning on top of the first half double crochet, make a half double crochet. Into the next one, start with a front post half double crochet. Into the next, a back post half double crochet. Front post half double crochet into the next, and so on. I'm going to continue like this, just alternating between front post and back post half double crochets. Continue, finish this second row. I will meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of the second row for this first front panel. In this row, I have done front post and back post half double crochets. To finish the row on top of the last stitch here, make a half double crochet. And this is how I finished the second row with 39 stitches as well. Now for row 3, chain 1 and turn. Beginning on top of the first stitch here, make a half double crochet. Now here we're going to work these stitches exactly how they are. This next stitch is a back post, so make a back post half double crochet. Next one, front post half double crochet, back post half double crochet into the next, and so on. This is how I'm going to continue for the third row. Just alternating between front posts and back post half double crochets. I will meet you here at the end of the third row. I finished the third row for this first front panel. Now here at the end on top of the last stitch, I did a half double crochet. At the end of this third row, I also had 39 stitches. Now this part here is done. Notice that I did not make any buttonholes. The spaces in between the rows here are big enough for buttons to fit through. For the most part, I always use 13, 14, or even 15 millimeter size with this 3.5 millimeter hook. At the end of the tutorial, I will let you know what size buttons I'm going to use. Now, what I'm going to do next is the second front panel. So we're going to go here to the left side and we're going to start this first row for the second front panel from the top down. So insert your hook into this chain stitch here at the top, grab a loop, bring it through, chain 1, and then make a half double crochet into this same stitch. Now here we have the first row. At the end we have a herringbone stitch, so here make 2 half double crochets. At the end of the next row I have 2 chains, so make 1. So this is how you're going to continue. 2 half double crochets, then 1. 2 at the end of the next, then 1. 2. And now I have the first row in this pink color right here. So here at the end you either have 3 chains or a double crochet. Where you have the 3 chains, you make 1. And at the end of the next, make 2. 1 at the end of the next, then 2. This is how you're going to continue. Make sure that before you finish this first row, count your stitches. If you need to make adjustments to make sure that you have the same number of stitches as you did for the first row here of the first front panel, make sure you do that. The important thing here is that you finish with the same number of stitches as you did for the first row of the first front panel. So count your stitches and adjust accordingly. I'll meet you here at the end of this first row. I'm here at the end of the first row. For the second front panel I have 39 stitches. Here at the end on top of the last stitch I did a half double crochet. Let me fix this last stitch here, right there. Now for row 2, chain 1 and turn. Beginning on top of the first stitch, make a half double crochet. Now beginning with the next stitch, make a front post half double crochet, back post half double crochet into the next, front post half double crochet into the next, and so on. Continue, finish this second row for the second front panel. I will meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of the second row for the second front panel. Now this row is being worked on the wrong side. To finish the row, go on top of the last stitch here and make a half double crochet. Now for row 3, chain 1 and turn. Beginning on top of the first stitch, make a half double crochet. Now into the next we're going to make a back post half double crochet, then a front post half double crochet, back post half double crochet into the next, and so on. Continue, finish this third row. I will meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. I finished the third row for the second front panel. Now here at the end I made my last half double crochet, cut my yarn and passed my yarn through this last loop. So this second front panel is all done. So this part here is done. Again, I did not make any buttonholes on either side, and the reason is because the spaces in between the rows of half double crochets are big enough for buttons to fit through. At the end of the tutorial, when I give you the finished measurements, I'm going to tell you how many buttons I'm going to put and what size buttons I'm using. So continue watching if you need that information. Now what I'm going to do next, it's optional. I'm going to add a little collar here around the little sweater. Now this is more for little girls. If you're making this for boys, I would just leave it like this. Just make a row of front post and back post half double crochets or half double crochets all around. So to make the collar for girls, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go here to this first front panel. Now I have the 3 rows here that we did for this side. We have row 1, 2, and 3. Right here where we did the first row, I have the last stitch of row 1 of the neckline. So right on top of that stitch, right there, insert your hook and grab a loop. I'm going to use this peachy color. Now chain 1 and right into this same stitch here, make a half double crochet. Now these half double crochets are going to be worked into the chain row here. This is the foundation chain, and right below that we have row 1 of the yoke. So right into these stitches there, that is where I'm going to be making these half double crochets. Here at the beginning I'm going to make a total of 7, and then for the rest I'm going to increase. So I have 1 into the next chain stitch, make the second one, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There, I have 7 half double crochets. From here up to about 7 stitches before we finish here at this other end, this is what we're going to do. Into the next stitch, make 2 half double crochets, and into the next 1. 2 half double crochets into the next chain stitch, and then 1 into the next. That's how you're going to continue 2, 1 all around until you come here to this other end, about 7 stitches before we finish. So I will meet you right here to show you how we're going to finish this first row. I'm here at the end of this first row for the neckline. Now up to here I have 50 half double crochets. Here's the last increase, and then I did 2 more where I did not make an increase into this 50th stitch. I have 8 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here at the end I'm going to make 1 half double crochet into each one. That's 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, and 58. There, I have 58 half double crochets. The important thing here is that we finish with an even number of stitches. Now for row 2, chain 2 and turn. Beginning on top of the first half double crochet, make a half double crochet. Now skip 1 and into the next, which is the 3rd stitch, counting from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. So into this next stitch here, make the first cluster stitch. Yarn over, take 2 loops off. Yarn over, take 2 loops off. Yarn over, take 2 loops off. 4 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, single crochet. Again, skip 1 and into the next, make the 2nd cluster stitch. There, 4 loops, close, chain 2, single crochet. Skip 1 and into the next, another cluster stitch, and so on. This is how you're going to continue to the end of this second row. Row 2 is being worked on the wrong side. Continue like this. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of the second row. Now up to here I have 27 of these cluster stitches. I still have 3 stitches left. 1, 2, 3. Here at the end I'm going to skip these last 2, and into the last I'm going to make a half double crochet. And this is how I finish row 2 with 27 cluster stitches. I don't want to add too many here because otherwise the neckline is going to be too wavy and we don't want that. So now for row 3, chain 2 and turn. Beginning on top of the first half double crochet, make a half double crochet. Now in the chain space of each one of these cluster stitches, you're going to make a cluster stitch. There, 4 loops, close, single crochet. In the chain space of the next, same thing, a cluster stitch. And this is how you're going to continue for this third row. I'm here at the end of the third row. Here's the last cluster stitch. I have 27. To finish the row here at the end, we have the 2 chains here. Into that space, insert your hook and make a half double crochet. Now I've cut my yarn. Pass your yarn through this last loop. So row 3 is all done and the neckline is done, and this is how it looks. Now as it is, you can leave it like this. I'm going to make one more row and this is optional. So to do this, we're going to go to this first from panel. This is where I finished, so we're going to go here to the opposite side, and I'm going to use this white yarn. I'm going to start in the same stitch where I did row 1 of the neckline, this first row of half double crochets. So insert your hook into that same chain stitch where you did the first half double crochet of row 1 of the collar, and there grab a loop, bring it through and chain 3. Now at the end of the next row we have this gap here, so into that space there insert your hook and make a single crochet. Now chain 3. Now at the end of the next row, this is the beginning of row 3. So here on top of this half double crochet, insert your hook and make a single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet on top of this half double crochet. So to continue here, I'm going to chain 1. In the chain space of each one of these cluster stitches, you're going to make a single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet, chain 1, jump to the next cluster stitch in the chain space, make a single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet, chain 1, in the chain space of the next cluster, make a single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet. And this is how you're going to continue all around. Row 4 is being worked on the right side, but once you turn the collar, it's going to be on the wrong side. And as you can see, this is how it looks. It gives it this beautiful finish. So I'm going to continue like this all around. I will meet you here at the end of the 4th row to show you how we're going to finish it. I'm here at the end of the 4th row. Here's the last shell. I did a single crochet, 3 chains, single crochet. Now here at the end, I have the last half double crochet. So into this half double crochet at the end, make a single crochet, 3 chains, then a single crochet into the same stitch. Now chain 3. And at the end of row, let's see, 1, 2, at the end of the 2nd row here of the collar, make a single crochet, chain 3, and then in the same chain stitch where we did row 1 of the collar, insert your hook there and make a slip stitch. Now cut your yarn and pass your yarn through this last loop. And this is how we finish the collar. And this is how it looks. Look how beautiful that looks. Very pretty. Now you can leave it like this and turn this into a beautiful little vest. I'm going to go ahead and add sleeves. So I'll go ahead and do this side and then I'll come back and show you how to make the sleeves. So this part here is done. I absolutely love how this turned out. It gives it a beautiful finish. So there it is. Now, if you don't want the collar to stand like this, to be flopping around, what you can do is with a yarn needle and some yarn, just go around and make a couple of stitches like this to keep the collar down. So let me show you how you would do that. With a yarn needle and some yarn in the same color as the collar, you would just go from the wrong side and make a couple little stitches. Like beginning here, for example, you would just make a little tiny stitch so it doesn't show, like this. And then skip a couple of the shell stitches and into the next one here, do the same thing. So I'll go ahead and do that and then I'll come back and show you how to make the sleeves. Okay, so now that we finished making the collar, we're going to make the sleeves. When you make your second sleeve, you're going to do it exactly in the same way how I'm going to show you here. So to begin, row 1 of the sleeve is going to be worked from the wrong side. So we're going to start right here, right under the sleeve, right in the middle. We have these 2 shells that we did in row 2 of the body, and right in the center there's this little gap. So right in between these 2 shells, insert your hook and we're going to grab a loop. I'm going to use the peachy color here. So bring this loop through and chain 2, 1 and 2. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a cluster stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, take 2 loops off, yarn over, take 2 loops off, yarn over, take 2 loops off. I have 4 loops on the hook, close, chain 2, then make a single crochet. Now here I recommend that you place a stitch marker to mark this chain 2. This way you know that whenever you see the 2 chains, that is where each row ends and that is where you're going to join. I'm going to place a stitch marker. Now we have 11 shells all around the sleeves. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Between this first shell that I did under the sleeve, and the first one out of the 11 around the sleeve, there's a big gap. So what I'm going to do in this space here is make a double crochet two together. So yarn over, insert your hook in any space as long as it's between these two shells or these two cluster stitches. Take 2 loops off, leave 2 loops, yarn over. I'm going to go right here, take 2 loops off, 3 loops on the hook, close. So here's the double crochet two together. This stitch here does not count. The stitches that I'm going to count are the cluster stitches. Now I'm going to go into the chain space of the first cluster stitch for the sleeve, and I'm going to make a cluster stitch in the chain 2 space. There. And same thing for each one of these cluster stitches all around. Continue like this, finish these 11 cluster stitches. I will meet you here at the end of the row to show you how we're going to finish the first row for the first sleeve. I'm here at the end of the first row. Now up to here I have 12 of these cluster stitches. I have 1 in the center plus the 11 that I had for the sleeves. That's a total of 12. Now to finish here, I'm going to make a double crochet two together between the first shell and the last one here. So here, just find a space between these two shells and make your double crochet two together. I'm going to go here into this space and then into this next space. Take 2 loops off, 3 loops on the hook, close. There's that double crochet two together. Now to finish, I have the 2 chains here at the beginning, join with a slip stitch. And this is how I finish row 1 with a total of 12 shells. Now for row 2, chain 2 and turn. Now, row 1 was worked on the wrong side, row 2 is being worked on the right side. From here on, we always start with 2 chains and we always turn for each row. So here to begin, I have the first cluster stitch in the chain 2 space. Of each one of these cluster stitches, make a cluster stitch. I keep saying shells, but you know what I mean. If you hear me say shells, it's the cluster stitches. So here I'm going to place a stitch marker in the chain 2, which is at the beginning of the row. So continue all around, just making these cluster stitches in each of the chain 2 spaces all around. I will meet you at the end of this second row. I'm here at the end of the second row. I still have one last shell. Here you're going to skip the double crochet two together that we did, and in the chain 2 space of the last cluster stitch, you're going to make a cluster stitch. 4 loops, 2 chains, single crochet. Here's the last cluster stitch. I have 12 to finish the row. Go here to the beginning, insert your hook right next to the chain 2 and join with a slip stitch. And this is how I finish this second row. From here on, we're just going to continue and repeat this row. So for row 3 here, you're going to chain 2, turn, and in the chain space of each one of the cluster stitches, you're going to make a cluster stitch. So remember to always chain 2, turn, from here on, we're just going to continue and make these cluster stitches in the chain 2 space of each cluster stitch all around like this. Now to finish, all you need to do is just join here to the chain 2 with a slip stitch, chain 2, turn, and then repeat the same thing. At the end of each row, you're always going to have 12 cluster stitches. Now for the sleeve, you're going to do a total of 15 rows, and then I'll come back and show you how to make the cuff. I finished making these 15 rows for the sleeve. Now I'm not counting this first row here. This is part of the yoke. This is the last row that we did before separating the sleeves. So from here, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Row 15 was worked on the wrong side. At the end of the 15th row, I just joined to the beginning with a slip stitch, cut my yarn, and passed my yarn through this last loop. So this part here is done. If you're not changing yarn color, then just go ahead, chain 1, turn, and make 2 slip stitches so that you are in the chain 2 space of this first cluster stitch. I'm going to start right here in the first chain 2 space of the first cluster stitch, grab a loop, bring it through. I'm using the white yarn again, so here chain 2. Now these 2 chains counts as 1 half double crochet. Into this same space here, make a half double crochet. So here I have 2. In each chain 2 space of each cluster stitch, you're going to make 2 half double crochets like this. At the end of this 16th row, we're going to have 24 half double crochets. So continue like this all around, just making 2 half double crochets into each one of the cluster stitches in the chain 2 space all around. I'll meet you at the end of this 16th row. I'm here at the end of row 16, which is the first row here of the cuff. I have 24 half double crochets. To finish, go into the chain 2 space and join with a slip stitch. And this is how I finish this row. Now for the second row of the cuff, chain 1. Now beginning into this first stitch, which are the 2 chains, make a front post half double crochet. Into the next, a back post half double crochet. Front post half double crochet into the next, back post half double crochet into the next, and so on. This is how we're going to continue for this row, just alternating between a front post and a back post half double crochet. At the end of this row, you're going to have 24 stitches. To finish the row, I'm going to go here to the beginning, join with a slip stitch, and then cut my yarn, pass my yarn through that last loop. So I'm only going to do 2 rows. If you want to make more, then go ahead and do so. So go ahead and finish this last row, and then I'll come back and show you the finished little jacket and also give you the finished measurements. I finished making the cuff here at the end of the second row. I just joined to the beginning with a slip stitch, cut my yarn, and passed my yarn through that last loop, and then I just hid my ends here on the inside. So the cuff along with the sleeve is all done. Now when you make the second sleeve, you're going to do it exactly in the same way how I showed you here with the first sleeve. So this little cardigan sweater is all done. To match the little Ivy baby blanket, in the information box you can find the link to that tutorial, and stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to make the matching little pants. I just finished them. These are it. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make them, so stay tuned for that. Here, let me give you the finished measurement. The total length of the sleeve from the neckline to the end of the cuff, it's measuring about 23 centimeters, which is about 9 inches. From under the sleeve to the end of the sleeve, it's measuring about 14 centimeters, which is about 5.5 inches. Now, I forgot to measure this. I think it's about 3.5 inches. Let's see. Yes, 3.5 inches, which is about 9 centimeters. Now the total length from the top of the shoulder to the end here of the hem, it's measuring about 25.5 centimeters, which is about 10 inches. And let's see, this part here, the yoke depth, it's measuring about 11.5 centimeters, which is about 4.5 inches. And the chest measurement, just the top, it's measuring about 23.5 centimeters, which is about 9.25 inches. So based on these measurements, this little cardigan sweater is for baby boys and girls between 3 and 6 months old. Now you can easily make it smaller or bigger from a newborn size and up to 2 to 3 years old. In the information box, I'll go ahead and leave you some information on how you can easily make it smaller or bigger, so be sure to check that out. Now, as far as yarn for the 3 to 6 month size, you're going to need a total of 118 grams. In the main color, which is the pink color, you're going to need about 91 grams. And in the secondary color, which is the white, you're going to need about 27 grams. So that's a total of 118 grams for the 3 to 6 month size. You will also need 4 buttons. These are 13 millimeter size. This little jacket is all done. Stay tuned for the matching baby pants, like I said, and the matching baby blanket is already in my channel. This gorgeous baby blanket here, I'll leave the link to that in the information box. And as always, if you prefer written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support.